This is episode 27 of the After Gambling podcast. In this episode, Joe comes on the show to share his story. Hey there, and welcome to the After Gambling podcast. My name is Jamie. I'm a compulsive gambler, and I'm also the host of this show. The last time I gambled was July 15th of 2010. Today we have an awesome show for you. A guy named Joe reached out to me on Instagram, and he messaged me and said, "Hey, I really like what you're doing with the podcast. I would love to come on and share my story." And we got together, we had a chat, and I'm really fortunate to have a new friend. And he's an awesome guy, and I think you're going to love our conversation. So, without further ado, here's my chat with Joe. I guess, Joseph, thanks for coming on. It's awesome to have you. You're one of the first people to jump out and say, "Hey, yeah, I want to come on and share my story." So it's nice that we finally get to chat.
Yeah, no, I saw you on Instagram. I thought it was a great thing you're doing, and just want to help you in any way I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess if you could start us off, I like to kind of give people an idea of like who you are just as a person today, normal life. So if you could just kind of share some of those things like background, what you do for fun, any of that type of stuff that you want to share.
Oh, by all means. Like I'm just, my name's Joe and I'm an average Joe. That's how I would describe myself. So no different than anybody else that you would see on the bus. You would pass in the mall. You would say hello to at your local health center. Just a regular guy, and I was doing it all just regularly. I was working a full-time job for a telecommunications company. You know, just got married. I was just doing the status quo, and I got bored. I got completely bored because I was like, "Is this all there is?" And then I got my paycheck, and I was thinking to myself, this is good, but I wonder if I bet this much money on a fight, if I could get that same money back in return. And I started looking at gambling as a way to fast forward, to kind of, instead of walking a straight line, kind of cut corners here and there. And that's when I got into the allure of gambling, I'll say. The addiction of gambling and the allure of gambling to me are two different things. But I would just describe myself as just a regular guy. Just no different than anybody else you would see on the street. Just the same guy, just blending in the crowd.
Yeah, and so I guess one question I have for you, was that the first time you started gambling? Was kind of after you got married? Like what age were you first exposed to gambling? Or did you have kind of earlier experiences?
Oh, yeah. My first experience with gambling was I was probably in grade 12 in high school. And my family went to Las Vegas. And I had I was going to go to the arcade, and I saw these slot machines. So I just walked by, and at that time, it wasn't on a paper system. You would just actually put in actual quarters into the machine, and then they would produce quarters back in return. So I put a quarter in, and all of a sudden, I heard it go off, and a bunch of quarters came out. And so I was like, well, put in, I don't know, I forget what it was, maybe 25, 75 cents, probably 25 cents. And I got $70 back. And I'm like, wow. That's just like that. And that allured me to, that kind of got me exposed. So I took my big thing of quarters. I took the bucket of quarters, brought it to the cashier. She gave me my money. And I'm like, oh, just like that. That's how easy it is to get that money. I was like, oh, that's pretty easy. Like, why isn't everybody doing this? So that was my first experience with gambling. And then from there, I got into just Pro Line, which is up here in Canada. So you'd bet on, six games, and I would get 5 out of 6. And then I'd be like, oh, if I only got that 6th game, I could have got this, and this, and this. So I would say from 17 years old is when I started gambling. And it was always just that if this just happened, or if that just happened, oh, I'd be so much closer, and I would have got what I wanted. And it was always feeling like I was just close to hitting this breakthrough. But as time went on, I realized that was just a giant illusion.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that early first win for all of us, I mean, and the sooner I think that we have it, it seems like when I hear more and more stories from other people, the sooner you have it, obviously that allure starts to move towards that addiction pretty quickly.
It does, because I've heard it called as the kiss of death, because you start thinking that this can become a consistent, and it just seemed easy at the time. Like, why would I work for 40 hours a week when I can just do this that takes me, a minute because a bet can happen in a minute, less than a minute. It's just this either goes this way or this goes that way. So you either win or you lose, but you're going to get a result. And in the gambler's mind, especially in my mind, I never saw myself losing. I just thought I would win. I would win this fight. I would win this bet on this fight. I would win this hand on blackjack. I would gamble this much money on slots and win this and been able to walk away. So everything in my mind when I was a gambler was all based on winning. I couldn't even foresee losing, and I couldn't even foresee the consequences of losing. It was strictly win.
Yeah, it's funny how we focus all the winnings. I mean, when you were saying that, it took me back to, my first kind of wins with poker, and I was like, oh, I turned $100 into $4,000 in a month. And like you said, I was in college. I'm like, why would I go get a job as an accountant when I can sit in my room and do this, which is more fun on a limited basis? Yep. And that's definitely that allure. So take us through more of that allure. I mean, obviously, like you have this early win, and then you kind of dabble some more and you dabble some more. Do you start to feel that it's progressing?
Is it progressing? Yes, of course, with the threshold. The threshold started to progress for me. So when you're betting $1 and you're winning $40, that's okay. But what happens if you bet $10 now? Well, I could probably win $400. And you just mentioned accounting there, Jamie. Well, what happens if I bet $100? Maybe I could win $4,000 like you just suggested. So now all of a sudden, if I increase my threshold, I can increase my ability to win more money. And then as I continued on that progress, I got desensitized towards the minimum bet. It became comfortable for me to bet. I got up to, with slot machines, I got up to $150 a hand on slot machines because I became comfortable with it. And $10 was just boring at that point. I wanted to bet $100. So I would go in there with $10,000 in my pocket, and I'm putting the $10,000 in the slot machine. And part of my language here, but fuck it, we're just going to roll the dice and see what happens. And sometimes that 10,000 would go down to, you'd start losing. And you're like, what am I doing? But I knew, okay, I'm just going to keep riding this thing out, because if this thing is either going to go all the way to zero or I'm going to hit. So I'm going to keep riding this thing out because I'm not walking away. I committed to this thing. So then you get down to, let's say 800, boom, you hit the bonus round. And you're like, okay. And then you shoot back up. And then you get back up, and then I'm going to ride it out again. Boom, 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 go down, boom, back up again, bonus. And all of a sudden you start getting above where your baseline was for that initial bet. And and that's where the gambling got addicting though. But as time went on, I realized that I wasn't actually gambling for money. I was gambling for dopamine. I don't know if you know about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I guess where most of your kind of gambling sessions, it sounds like you're similar to me in that it was like, okay, you had this money. Once it was in, it wasn't a matter of like, there was no quitting when there was 30% left. There was no quitting when there was 10% left. It's going to go to zero or it's going to go up to a number.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
And my other thing, I kind of, when you were talking there, talk us through kind of that thought of, I mean, you're walking in with $10,000 to play slot machines at $150 a pull, which when you first started wasn't even fathomable that you would ever do that, right?
Not at all. That would be out of my, I couldn't even be able to think of that. That wouldn't even be able to materialize in my mind. But then as the gambling continues, as you progress, it becomes more and more comfortable. The dollar becomes a $10 bet. The 10 becomes a 20, the 20, and then your comfort level starts to grow with the bet.
One other thing, did you notice that money that you were using for slot machines and stuff, you treated differently than kind of like, personally, I would never have spent the money I spent on myself or buy myself things in real life. I mean, I'd be checking my bank card to see if I could buy Subway, yet going on and buying in for $400 tables to play poker. Is that similar to you, that you had like kind of a different value of money when it was gambling versus kind of outside in your normal life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There was two different people that I was. I was Joe the gambler, and then I was just Joe, just the average Joe. So if I'm going to go, like you suggested, to Subway, that's $8. Do I really need that $8? Oh, that pant's pretty nice, but that's $60. Do I need that $60? But when it came to gambling, yeah, no problem. Like you suggested, I'll pay $400 a hand. And money wasn't money in gambling. As weird as that sounds, money was never money in gambling. It was just a means to place a bet. It was like a game. So money didn't actually have a value. Money just had a purpose. It wasn't even about the money, because I didn't have ever a thought when, oh, if I got up to this amount of money, I could translate this money into this. It was just a game. It was just a game that I got sucked right into because I wanted just to see if I could beat a system. I wanted to see if I could, there was like this challenge ahead of me, and I wanted to see if I could overcome it. And it was just, I don't know what I gained out of it at the end. I know what I lost out of it at the end. I lost a lot, but it wasn't actually ever about the money, what I've come to realize.
So talk to us a little bit about some of those things you said you lost. I mean, obviously you went into it and you had no thought about what you would gain, but what were some of the things that you lost? What was kind of the side effects of your gambling?
Well, the first thing I lost really is my value of money. I lost my value of money. I would say I lost my self-respect. I lost my control. I lost the importance of how others respected me. I lost the importance of having a positive self-image. I lost the importance of feeling the need to be a credible person. I lost the importance of, I guess, being empathetic to how others felt. I lost the importance of, just wanting to do better in life. So, because what gambling took over was my sense of thought. That's really what happened with gambling. As I progressed with gambling, my mind eventually got shut off. I couldn't think anymore. I didn't want to think at that point, actually, because when my gambling really escalated, I was going through a divorce. And so what gambling gave me was a distraction, but not just a distraction, it gave me an off switch. So instead of having feelings, gambling presented an off switch for me so I could turn off my feelings. I could turn off my thoughts. And I just became submerged in this life that wasn't even existent. I almost was living in a dream and not having to wake up. Like if you were to say to me, hey, Joe, who was sitting next to you at that casino? I couldn't tell you one single person that I sat next to. Couldn't tell you what one person's name was. Couldn't tell you the story of one person I met. Because when I was gambling, I was strictly in a zone that just existed between me and gambling. It was like a dream.
I can
Does that make
completely
sense?
relate to everything you just said for the last little bit. I mean, it's my story exactly. The feelings. I mean, I always say, like, somebody asked me the other day, like, what were the feelings in Rush? And I'm like, when I started losing it, like, and even all the time, probably, I just felt hollow. There was like an emptiness, like distant. I mean, I would describe myself as distant. Like you said, people around me, I had no clue. The people at the table. So poker is obviously kind of, you're playing with other people. When I did play live, which was rarely, most of it was online. I mean, most of the time I'd sit there with my headphones on, cranking up music, and I was a robot. I mean, it was a whole, like you talk about two different people. Yeah, like just a zombie and hollow and empty, and there was no meaning to any of it. That's
no meaning, no sense of feeling, no sense of, you didn't even feel I didn't even feel once I won. I could win $7,000 and I didn't even feel a rush off winning $7,000.
Yeah. Because the game's not over, right? I mean,
it's not over.
We know that the win, like the only time it ends, at least for me, was when I was out of money. Other than that, I mean, then it was it didn't end. It just was a delay in the game, almost like a stop on the game until you had money again, and then it started over. And it didn't matter how high that roller coaster went, it was always going to come crashing back down to the bottom. But
somehow or another, you're going to find a way to get that money back up.
Absolutely.
Because, they knocked me down and now I'm going to try to find a way to get back up. So whether or not that means trying to apply for credit or using another credit card or whatever you have to do to try to come up with that money, you're going to do so that way you can get back up to where you were. Oh my God. I remember thinking once I hit that zero, I can't believe I did this. I made this horrible mistake. But if I do this, this, and this, and this, I can get back to where I was. And then that bet never happened again.
Yep. We always think, okay, I just won't, I just won't go on tilt next time. I mean, when somebody beats me at a bad hand, I'll just leave. And it's the fantasy. And I think the other thing that's so fascinating with gambling, I mean, and it's part of the devastation of it, is that I'm trying to think of another addiction where the only way out seems to be to continue to do the thing you're addicted to more. I mean, when you think about it, gambling, because it is all of us. I mean, it's like when you lose, it's like, well, I'm not going to go work to get it back. I'm going to gamble to get it back. Once I gamble back to this point, and I mean, you would never do that with, alcohol. Like, you don't drink to solve your problem. I mean, you don't do more heroin to solve your heroin problem. You don't, smoke more cigarettes to quit smoking. Like,
you don't do that. But gambling, if I just do one more time with my addiction, if I partake in this addiction just one more time, then I can get rid of my addiction, because I can't go out on a loss.
Yep.
I got to go out on a high. Like, I got to make up for this, what I is, and then I'm going to use an eraser, and that's basically going to scratch off what previously happened.
Yeah. And then nobody has to know about it. It's a delusional way of thinking.
And nobody has to know about it. It never happened. I'm back to square one, and I can just go back to being the person I was before. And I think the reason why that is, from my experience, is there was a Joe that people didn't know about. So if I were to hide that Joe didn't exist. And if I were to right the wrong of what that Joe did, kind of cover up my evidence, well, now I'm just back to being the other Joe, and I'll never go back to being the gambling Joe.
Yeah. I think that sums it up pretty well. I mean, I think one other thing I noticed, and I can kind of sense from you, is that competitiveness. I mean, were you a former athlete or competitive in other areas? I mean, that seems to be common thread of a lot of, problem gamblers and addiction. I mean, is that part of your background, or?
Yeah, I was never competitive in the aspect of me versus you. I always just looked at it as me versus me. So I became competitive in knowing if I could control myself. That's where I became competitive. So gambling became addictive in a manner where I saw what I was doing was wrong. I saw what I was, when I was losing control. So I wanted to know if I could walk away. I wanted to know if I could control myself. That actually became the competitiveness for me. So I want to fight. Could I refrain from betting again with these winnings? Could I actually, because I knew when I was gambling, what I was doing was getting the better of me. But I wanted to see if, okay, maybe there's a way for me to control this addiction. Could I basically control the beast? There was a beast inside of me, and I wanted to know if I can control the beast. And I can honestly say, no, the beast beat the shit out. I have to succumb to the beast.
Yeah, and it's only through that acceptance. I mean, I went through the same process that you say, okay, I'm not going to fight this game I can't win any longer, and to get to the freedom that we all want. And well, Joe, you were talking, and I love that you were talking about how the beast basically like beat the shit out of you, right? And I think we can all relate to that. And for me, I was lucky. I mean, my beast ran into a pocket dial from a riverboat when I wasn't supposed to be there, and I got caught. So if you could kind of walk us through kind of your story, how do you go from this kind of addiction, and you have these $1,500 or $150 spins on the slot machines, to the point where you are now, where you obviously are in a much, much better place. So if you could just kind of share that story with us.
So where my story started and where the beast kind of manifested itself to its highest strength, which took over my life, would be when I sold my marital home, and I had now access to funds to do serious gambling with. I went an entire year hard gambling consistently in every different avenue you could think of. So if it was a scratch ticket, I wasn't buying a scratch ticket. I was buying packs of scratch tickets. And if I was gambling, and then I would gamble after that, and then I would study fights, and then I would bet on the sports fights on the weekends. So whether or not I was gambling, my mind was in the mode for when the next bet was. So my mind was consistently on the gambling mind. I exhausted the funds, and I was like, oh, what am I doing? And then I threw up a Hail Mary. I wanted to, try to get my money back. And in December of 2013 to January 2014, I hit a big slot win. All of a sudden, I get my money back, but the gambling was still taking part. And I knew I should have walked away at that point, but I couldn't because I was addicted and the beast still wanted to be fed. Kept going a bit. The money started dwindling. I knew I threw a Hail Mary up before. Come July, well, time to throw another Hail Mary. We're going to hit it again because I'm going to win. And as we talked about earlier, the gambling mind does not recognize the consequences. It only recognizes the rewards. If I do this, I can get this. So I want this because I don't like the situation I'm in and I want to change the situation. But I don't want to wait for the situation to change. I want it fixed now. So I wanted to go down to Vegas. I was going to place a big bet on a boxing match. I'd studied the fighter. I'd watched all of his amateur fights. I knew he was going to win. I knew that the betting market hadn't caught up to him at that point, so that the odds were good. And I was going to place all my money on this guy. Got down to Vegas. I was very tired because I couldn't sleep a couple of nights before, because when I was gambling, I would go to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. That was regular. 8 o'clock in the morning, that was regular, because I wanted to gamble when the world was asleep, but I felt most awake. Got down to Vegas. As soon as I got there, I wanted to gamble. So I gambled till 8 o'clock in the morning. I wanted to place my bet, but I was tired, so I wanted to take a nap, and I slept for 12 hours straight. Wake up, oh my God, I got to make that bet, because I knew that fighter would win. Get in the taxi, go to the closest casino, rush up to the window. Sorry, sir, betting's closed for that fight. But I got a big wad of cash in my pocket. See the high limit slots? Well, I guess I can do this. And I knew in my mind, because when you're a gambler, and you'll know this, Jamie, when your mind's not right, you know what's going to happen. But there becomes a part in your mind where you don't give a shit. Because you start self-loathing. And you almost start to want to take the hit in the face. And I didn't feel that at that time, but subconsciously, I think that's what was going on. So I started gambling that night. Money starts dwindling down. All of a sudden, get it back up. Because of how I played, the host comes up to me and says, hey, why don't you stay here for a couple of days? Stayed there for a couple of days, just gambled straight, 4 days straight. Must have slept within the 4 days, I don't know, maybe 8 hours in total. Just kept gambling. I just didn't want to stop gambling. All the money gone. Now, here it happens. Go home. Like, okay, I'm going to go home and I'm just going to never gamble again. Well, got $100 left. And then when I got home, I hit that roll, Jamie. I hit the roll. Place $100. Boom, 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 boom. Starts going up. Okay, got it up. Start betting that money. Boom, 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 boom. Starts going up. And I'm starting to control my gambling. So it appears, by the night at least, because I'm like, okay, I'm up. I'm going to actually turn it off. And I was doing online gambling this time. I'd run upstairs. I'd take off my router. I'd throw the router. I would disconnect the internet so I couldn't continue online gambling. Start the next day. Boom, 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 boom. Comes up. And all of a sudden the money starts coming up again off of $100. And I get all the money back that I lost in Vegas. Oh my God, this is perfect. I got it all back. I'm back at square one. I can walk away from this thing now. I can finally do what I wanted to do, which was walk away on my terms. This is my set. This is perfect. This is lined up. I've controlled the beast. Well, so I thought. Takes a couple days with online gambling when you want to cash out your winnings. Winnings stay in the account. Well, all of a sudden I start having a personal issue. And I start with the self-loathing. And when you're not gambling and you're on that win and you're going from, you're not gambling for 3 days, that feels like 3 years. Because you think, maybe I can keep going a little bit further. Maybe I can keep going further. And I had a personal issue where I started to feel some emotional distress. And then I went into that self-loathing state. And within I don't know how long it would have been, probably 5 hours, all that money that I had reaccumulated off of this roll was gone, because I had maxed up my bets at this point to $300 a time. And I was realizing what I was doing, and I started saying, I just want this money to go. because I do not want to continue to gamble because I just want this to hit zero so that way I can just basically bottom out, as you talked about earlier, just to bottom out. And I did that, and it went down to zero. And I looked back and I said, did I have to go that far? Could I have not just walked away? But one thing I've learned with gambling is when you're gambling, you're not in a logical frame of mind. You're in an emotional state of mind. And so I bottomed out, lost all my money once again. And then I knew, okay, I got to just kind of pull back and not gamble. But I tried to do it my own. And I would do it for like 5 months, 6 months, maybe. But then I would hit like some type of emotional situation where I started to feel a little uneasy, a little uncomfortable, and I wanted to gamble again. And then when I go to the casino, I would lose easily in a night what somebody would take a year to lose. Like, if I had whatever I had access to, goes down. Next time I'd wait maybe another 2 months, 3 months. Again, whatever I had access to, goes down. And I really, really realized that by quitting for 60 days, I was never quitting because I was just more or less refraining myself. I was trying to control myself. I was trying to lock up the beast, but the beast wasn't being put to sleep. So I kept going in this pattern, and I had a best friend, and her brother was an alcoholic. And he actually ended up, unfortunately, a couple years before that, losing his life to alcoholism. And this person came into my life, and I was very blessed for that. And she said, I think you really need help. And I didn't want to hear that, but I knew she was right. And so I kept with that pattern of a couple months off, a couple months not gambling, and I couldn't beat it. So I ended up calling this mental health helpline. We have that set up in Canada. And I said, I really have a serious gambling addiction. As much as I try to beat this thing, 90 days, 60 days comes up, and I just have to gamble again. I just can't control it. And when I gamble, I can't control myself, and I'm just losing constantly. And they said, well, there's a center where you can go, and they have what's called a behavioral therapist, and she could talk to you about gambling. She can help you kind of understand what's going on in the mind with gambling. So I reached out for help from not medical professionals, but from professionals, from behavioral therapists. And she started teaching me what was going on in the mind with the gambling. And I started kind of following what she said. It took some time, and I had to go through a lot of withdrawal. And that's what led me to my recovery, was kind of finding people who could give me guidance on how to recover, because I didn't have that ability to recover on my own.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome that you have that in Canada. I think we have some similar programs. I don't know how formal from our states. I know there are some out there. I've learned that, but it is. I mean, getting in and getting with a therapist will really help me quite a bit. So, I mean, I'm sure that's kind of in the same realm. One question I do have. So your friend, what was the tone of that conversation? Because I know the tone when my wife had it was very comforting. It was it was very direct, obviously, that, hey, you're going to go get help. And so your friend's obviously in a different situation, but I'd just like you to speak to it a little bit, because there are a lot of people and friends and family that say, I mean, how do I bring this up if I do have my father or a loved one that has this? Do you remember, I mean, did that have an impact on you, the way she said it or what she said? Was there anything that kind of stuck with you from that conversation?
There was. What I was doing, because I had self-restricted myself from websites, I was asking my sister to create an account in her name, and I would gamble. So when I had that big loss from when I came back from Vegas and I lost that money, that was actually my sister's name. So I didn't want to ask my sister. So this friend, I had asked her, can I set up an account in your name? And she went along with it, and I got the money up. And then I had that moment where you lose it all and you go on the tilt. But what she had said to me that stuck with me is she was really concerned for me. It wasn't about her saying, you could have given me this money, but you didn't. She never actually even said that. She just expressed concern that I think you really need help to overcome this. And I could see that she had a genuine concern for me and for my emotional well-being. And she basically said, I don't think you'll ever be able to beat this. And I want you to be better. I want you to feel better. I don't want to see you hurt. It hurts me to see you hurt. And then that's when I realized, not at the full spectrum, but partially. And I never realized this. This took me a long time to realize when I quit gambling. My gambling, I thought when I was a gambler that I was hurt just myself. And that was why I gambled, actually. I can't drink and drive. If I'm drinking and I drive, I could kill somebody. But when I'm gambling, I'm just hurting myself. That's what I thought, but I was wrong in thinking that, because I was actually hurting a lot of other people with my gambling. What she expressed, without saying it directly and putting blame on me, because she never made me feel that way, but I could see that by me hurting myself, I was hurting her. And that she was also feeling my pain. And that's why I just wanted to, realize that I got to overcome this addiction, because I'm hurting other people with it.
Yeah, and I think that sharing of empathy basically from her is what obviously helped you, and that's what helped me, was my wife told me, look, you're lucky I watch a lot of Intervention, because I know people have problems and I know they can get through them. And so it wasn't that accusatory, and I know I've been on the other side of it, and as the friend, it sucks, because I don't know if you know the story, but I had a really close friend that had a gambling problem way back when, and I tried to help them. And it was easy to get frustrated and to be just kind of say, look, just stop and you'll be fine. But it does take that empathy. And so that's I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I think that's something that we can all kind of take something away from, whether it's somebody with an alcohol addiction or gambling or any other addiction, that I really believe that kind of that connection is the key, and the empathy. So,
and you're absolutely right. When the addiction was taking over my mind and an addict's mind, the person is behaving according to the addiction. I wasn't in a very good frame of mind when I was being an addict. And I'm, of course, responsible for my actions. I take full accountability for my actions. But a lot of the stuff that I was doing was just feeding my addiction. And it's very easy to be frustrated with somebody when you just say, why are you doing this? You should be in a logical frame of mind. What's wrong with you? Snap out of it, will you? But it's not that easy, because your mind is not logical. It's an emotional mind. It's in an addictive state. And it really takes a person like your wife or like my friend to recognize that and have sympathy and empathy for the person, and tolerance and patience, and try to help that person and stand by that person. It was very thoughtful what that person did for me.
Yeah, and I can tell in your voice how appreciative you are of that.
Yeah, because if it wasn't for that person coming into my life, I don't know. I think I still would be a gambler. And I hate the thought of thinking that, because, she at least kind of gave me that push to get help. And it's when I went to the help where they kind of taught me things about gambling that I didn't know. And then I realized, oh, there's a lot of mind trickery going on in the casinos on my mind that I'm not aware of. And that kind of gave me, well, maybe I shouldn't be too hard on myself. Maybe a lot of the times that these games are designed to create an addiction with near misses or losses disguised as wins. Maybe I should go a little bit easier on myself, and maybe by working out my own personal issues, maybe by learning how to be, have emotional regulation or de-stress tolerance, or being more mindful in the moment, practice meditation. Maybe by doing these things, I don't have to go to that point of distress where I need to have an escape like gambling.
Yeah, and I think those two that you talked about, the near misses and the losses disguised as wins, those are two big ones that are eye-opening, really, when you start to really look at what is being done. And it is at a very, very deep and scientific level that, they're going to create these games which are so addicting. So I guess in addition to those, what other things did you learn from your therapist, or what was were there any action steps that they encouraged you to take, or what kind of has recovery looked like for you?
Well, the first 90 days was probably, I would just say I just kind of, my mind wasn't able to grasp what they were teaching me in the first 90 days. There's a little bit of a withdrawal that you have to go through. So I remember my first recovery, I would get an urge to have a bet. Something would come up. I would see odds, and my mind would just start thinking of gambling, and I would just, what it's like when you have the gambling urge. It's just the constant thing on your mind. Whatever else is going on, that doesn't matter because you're thinking of making that, right? So I had to weed out. I had to kind of rush out. I had to let these urges pass. So I could remember just sitting there on my couch, binge watching a series on Netflix, whatever I had to do to just pass the time so I wouldn't gamble when the urges were coming. And I remember getting shakes and feeling cold. So first I had to get through that. Then as recovery went on and my behavioral therapist started teaching me about what's going on in the mind, about how as I was gambling, I was actually increasing my dopamine levels and I was shutting down my serotonin, that my mind, I started increasing the neurotransmitters in my brain, and I kept trying to feed the amount of dopamine. And the only way I could feed my dopamine, these neurotransmitters with dopamine, is by gambling and by maintaining that level of gambling. So she taught me that basically I have to give it time now, time and distance for my mind to reset as it was before, because I'd created all these pathways in my brain. And she taught me a lot about how I have to make sure that when I get in a heightened sense, because we'll get in heightened sense, and when we get in heightened sense, we want to hit the escape button. We want to go back to something that brings up our dopamine. I'm feeling down. I need a dopamine hit right now. She taught me how to basically bring it down, follow the breath, be present in the moment, maybe even just do a half smile. If you're feeling stressed, just hold a smile for a couple minutes. Change how your brain is, whatever shape the brain is having. If it's saying it's in distress, hold a smile, and all of a sudden it'll tell your brain, hey, I'm not doing too bad. The other thing I do is I get, sounds silly, I get Botox, because it takes away the frown muscle in your head. And so if I can't have the frown muscle, I'm not getting sensories to my brain saying I'm pissed off, I'm stressed, I want to go to the gambling. So I'm trying to always find ways to keep my mood kind of like an even keel, because with gambling, if you were to look at a scale of 1 to 10, I was either on a 1 or I was on a 10. I was never on a 4, 5, and 6. Just 1 or 10. Now I live within the 4 to 6.
Yeah, give me an A or give me an F, right? With gambling, it's
Yeah.
that all in or all out. I mean, I'm either gonna have massive success and own the world, or I'm going to lose every single dollar I have. So there is no in between.
There's one of the two.
Yeah. So
those are the only two possible scenarios. Yes.
So how about other habits? Just replacing the time. So, you talked about dealing with the urges, and I think that's some great information. There's a lot of takeaways there. Have you incorporated new habits, new activities? Because obviously gambling took up a ton of our time. So has that been a part of your recovery, to pick up some new things?
Yeah, I got more serious into my fitness and health. I was able to return to work. So I got into work, and when I'm serious into gambling, I wasn't working, but now I'm working again, so that fills up time. Spending more time with family, which I wasn't doing as gambling, or if I wasn't present. Spending more time, redeveloping friendships. So I fill my time with those type of things, just trying to be more social, practicing listening. The main thing that I've replaced, I've taken gambling out, and I put instead is meditation and mindfulness, because what the meditation has done is it allows me to, when I start tracking my breath, it gives me that slight moment where I can become more aware of what's going on inside of me. So when I'm having an urge or I'm starting to get distressed, I can recognize that. So that urge or that distress doesn't take over my state of being. I can be like, uh-oh, warning signal, like do, and kind of, and I'm like, uh-oh, I see where this is going. If it's a conversation where I feel like this could lead to a lot of distress, well, now I gotta shut this conversation out, or just walk away without it blowing up. Just walk away, not let things blow up, come back 24 hours, come back, different frame of mind. So it's always constantly just trying to monitor what's going on inside of me. You do the same?
I do. That's actually, I haven't gotten into a great habit with the meditation in the morning. When I do it, I'll tell you what, I mean, it makes a huge difference. And I mean, this is something that's been on my mind a lot recently because
Yeah.
it is like getting that morning routine. I mean, there's a great book. I don't know if you've seen Hal Elrod. It's, he just has a new one that came out. Well, I'm drawing a blank on the title, but he actually has one on focus on, Miracle Morning. Miracle Morning by
Okay.
Hal Elrod. And it's a lot on, I mean, mindfulness and some different things. He actually just came out with one that's focused on addiction, the Miracle Morning for
Okay.
addiction recovery. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten into a lot of those different kind of self-help things. And I mean, the
Hmm.
mindfulness and yeah, there's a great book. I think it's Thich Nhat Hanh, Mindfulness, I believe is the title of it. That's a book I just love
Okay.
listening to on audio. It's really good. He's a Buddhist monk, and it's a lot of that kind of staying present. And
Yes.
one of
Well,
the
gambling, yeah,
yeah,
it's
go
all
ahead.
about the future, right? No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but gambling's all about the future. It's not nothing in gambling is about present moment.
Yeah, he has a great line in the book, and it's basically the intersection of life happens at the intersection of here and now. And I think it is like that was just such a like I don't know why that one stuck with me for a long time because you're right. I mean, we look into the past or we look into the future, and we miss out on life actually happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it seems like you have a lot of the similar feelings that I have. I mean, I know personally, I've come to appreciate what I've gone through, and
Hmm.
in a weird, sick way, I would go through it again to get to the place I am now because I don't know that I would have gotten to this same place in my life without the struggle. And so it's an interesting thing. But I guess is that similar to you? I mean, what's the best thing that's come out of this? Obviously, we always focus on the worst things that come out of it, but I think there are a lot of good things that come out of kind of getting to the other side of addiction. What are those things for you?
Well, I saved my life.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it because a lot of what you was talking about being in the here and now when I was gambling, I was either I wasn't in the present in the moment, and a lot of my gambling had to do with stuff that I was upset about happening in the past. Why did that happen? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? That's not right. You know, but then what I've been able to do is I've been able to come to an acceptance in life that things are just as they are, things are what they are, and I'm at peace at that. So whatever is, and that's just the way it'll be, and I'll accept it for what it is. It could be different tomorrow, but for now, whatever that situation comes in front of me, well, I'll accept it. So the good thing that gambling has given me is an appreciation for life by not gambling, because when I was gambling, I didn't appreciate life, and now I've learned to appreciate life and value life.
And what better gift for the rest of your life to be able to live each day and appreciate it? I mean, that's really,
Yeah.
I mean, the root of it all. So, Joe, I mean, you've been incredible. I know this is going to be a hit and really, really, really help a lot of people. And I want to get you out of there here with one last question, which is just kind of I know you reached out to me on Instagram. Why
Yeah.
share your message now? I mean, because I think that's something we're all hesitant to. I mean, I told you before we recorded this, you're asking when I started this, and I said, well,
Mhm.
I got the domain about 4 years ago, and it took me about 3.5 years to do anything with it.
That's
But
good
there
timing
is, yeah.
because
and there-
I got a lot of stuff that's on beyond that. So go ahead.
but so, like, why share? Like, what are you getting out of sharing, or what have been the positives? Just because I guess what I'm trying to get to is encouraging more people to share their story. I think it's very heroic. I think it's very helpful also personally for me to share my story.
Hmm.
But what is it for you? Why share now?
Well, for me, it's a lot of the times when I was gambling, I'd feel a lot of shame and guilt, regret. Uh, the regret will pass. Shame and guilt, though, I've decided, you know what? I'm not going to be shameful. I'm not going to live with guilt. I'm going to accept what I did in my past. It it is what it is. It made me who it is. But the reason why I share is because my name's Joe. I don't see myself any different. And when you said heroic, I appreciate you saying that, but I don't see it. I think a lot of people walk paths where they have a behavior or a beast inside of them that just kind of can take over their life, and it can really screw up a lot of things. So I don't think it's necessarily important to be ashamed of that beast. is to recognize that beast, to say, yeah, I have this beast inside of me. I am aware of this beast, but I'm going to do whatever I can in my power to make sure that I contain this beast. And I'm no different than anybody else that you're going to cross on the street. Whenever you see somebody on the street, there's always everybody is going through something. And I think it's important, instead of letting that beast take over your life or even end your life, because I remember I would have a lot of suicidal thoughts when I was gambling, like, this sucks. I just want this to end. I could have lost my life, and I've heard of gamblers losing their life, but it doesn't have to go that far. The beast can be recognized, the beast can be treated, and the person can have back their quality of life.
That's awesome. And I think, you've done a lot to help reduce the stigma and kind of that shame. I know you're going to help a lot of other people by sharing your story, and I just can't thank you enough.
You're doing your work.
Hey, I appreciate it.
You're doing the work, and I really applaud what you're doing. I think it's an amazing thing. It's important to recognize that gambling is an addiction, just like alcohol or drugs. Some people like to just do weed on a Saturday. No big deal. Some people like to do heroin every 15 minutes. It's a big deal. So gambling has the same thing. Gambling can be a fun thing to do. And if you can keep it a fun thing to do, hey, all the power to you. God bless you. But if gambling takes over your life, like it did for me, like it did for you, you got to recognize that it's gone too far, and you got to step back and say, hey, I can't do this anymore because I want to have my life, and I can't let this life be what this life that I'm living isn't the life that I want to live. You agree?
100%. It always blows my mind. The more people I talk to, and I think that's the other positive thing that comes out of this. And that's why, a lot of the feedback I get from people is, wow, your story's just like mine. And
yeah,
I can say, your story to a T, you change out slots for poker, and you couldn't tell the difference. And that's why I think like it is. I think that is part of what has helped reduce the shame. And it's just to know that there's other people that struggle with this exact same thing, and also that it doesn't have to be this life sentence. It doesn't always have to be an A or an F. You can just stop trying to be in that game, and life gets better after. So
totally does.
Well, thanks again, my friend, and I look forward to doing this again if you're up to it, because you've been awesome, and like I say, it's just nice to meet another person in this realm, and hopefully someday we can meet in person. And yeah, thanks again for coming on the show.
Fantastic, Jimmy. I really appreciate you having me on there, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thanks, Joe. So now I think you can see why I was so excited to share this episode with you. There's so many great takeaways, and I hope that you get a lot out of my conversation that I had with Joe. Now, as always, remember, we are not healthcare professionals. We're not doctors. We're not lawyers. We're not attorneys. The views we express are just our opinions, and we do those for educational purposes only. Gambling is extremely devastating, and it's something that's extremely serious as well. So please, if you're having problems, reach out to a professional. Talk to your doctor, talk to an attorney about any legal problems you may have. Don't rely on the information provided in this podcast, because it is just for informational purposes. And then finally, music for the show is Something Elated by Broke for Free and is licensed under the Creative Commons license.